Welcome back, folks. Today we're going to begin the assembly of the right side of the engine case, and there's quite a bit that goes on this side. As I alluded to before, we've got the clutch basket, the primary drive, the shift mechanism that all has to be put together. First thing we're going to do is put in the new crankshaft seal on the right side. Here's the original. I already have gone through and matched the nomenclature or the size here to the new one, and they do match. I don't know if I mentioned before, but these parts are still serviced by Yamaha. These are brand new parts. These are not NOS parts. These are brand new, still available from Yamaha. So obviously they're used on multiple size, or multiple bikes rather, and probably sizes too for that matter. But anyway, all the seals are brand new, not NOS. They came right from Yamaha. This little bushing fits on the inside of the seal here like this. So we'll put that in after we've placed the crank seal. So I'm going to go ahead and lubricate the bearing with assembly lube and the edges of the new bearing, or the new seal rather, and see if we can't get it in place before we move on to the mechanical assembly. I thought I would digress here just for a moment to show you the photo on the monitor at my workbench, computer monitor. I take detailed photos during disassembly of everything. I have hundreds and hundreds of photos of each project. And this photo represents the right crankshaft seal that we're preparing to install. And the reason I take all these photos, and I take a close-up like this one, you can see how it details how deep the seal in this case is set into the engine case. You can also see here in the corner the date. This happens to be, of course, in North American format, so for our European friends this date will look probably backwards to you, but this is July 19, 2018. In I can't quite read that on my monitor, 19:06 p.m. So it's 7:06 p.m. in the evening is when this photo was taken, on July 19 of last summer. So this is early January of 19, so it was 6 months or so ago. But anyway, my point is the photos are used for reference, so I always check those, so I make sure that as I'm, in this case, seating a seal, I pay attention to how deep it's set into the case, and then I'll duplicate that or attempt to, when I install the new seal. Okay, we got things about ready to go. Again, assembly lube in the bearing itself, the seal, nomenclature, size facing out, a little light machine oil around the perimeter, inside and outside, and now it's going to be a matter of seeing if we can get this to just a seat. Just checking to see, make sure it's going in evenly, and if it's not, you can adjust it at this stage. Okay, it's nice and even, level. Now we've got the seal all seated. I did reference the image on my computer monitor that I alluded to earlier and made sure that the way it's seated here matches the visual on the monitor. It's nice and flush all the way around and square, so I think we're all set. Now that we've got the main right crankshaft seal in place, there's one other little seal we have to put in, way down in there, and it looks something like that. Get a shot of that. That's an original or a new Yamaha part. I ordered that. They still service that part number, believe it or not. And it's a little tiny O-ring. It goes way down in there and seals. Let me see if I can get this piece here. This is a bushing that fits like that inside of this main seal. And that O-ring seals the inside of this bushing. Now this could have been installed before I put the main seal in, but I chose not to because it's so fine. It's a very fine O-ring. I didn't want to take a chance of damaging it. So I'm going to install it obviously afterwards. Let me see if I can get a better shot of that O-ring groove down in there for you. If you follow the pointer of my little tiny screwdriver and follow it right down, there's the groove right there that little O-ring will go into. It's about as good a shot as I can get of it for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little grease around the shaft as well as on the little O-ring itself, and just ease it over and gently push it down into place and seat it in that groove right there. I've got the shaft lubricated with a little light oil. I decided to use light oil rather than grease. Grease would have been fine. And then the O-ring itself, I just got it started here, and I'm just going to gently roll it down into place. This is a new O-ring, so it is very pliable. And there, it dropped right down in as I would want it to. That now is going to be followed with this bushing, as you can see here. Again, I'm going to apply a little light oil on both the inside and the outside, because remember, it goes on the inside of the large seal and it goes over the small seal, or the O-ring that I just put in. And what I don't want to do is roll that little O-ring out, because if I'm not careful and I get a little bit too heavy-handed here, I wouldn't even notice it, and then I'm going to end up with an air leak and or an oil leak here. And by the way, I have lubricated down in there. I dribbled oil down all the way around, and this has been generously lubricated. Now I'm just going to work this down into place. And that's now complete. So we've got all the seals on this right crankshaft complete. Now we'll move on to starting the assembly of the rest of the lower unit. Next thing we're going to do is install this bearing retainer. That's for this bearing right here. There's a stop on the inside of the case that the bearing fits against, but there's nothing to prevent the bearing from coming out this way. That's what this retainer is for, and it fits like that. I've already cleaned it up on both sides. It was in very good shape, and it's flat. I checked it on my surface plate, and it's very flat. It uses two 16mm screws. These two are the originals that came out, And you can see the one in my right hand is, well, apparently I don't recall this, but I might have had a little trouble getting it out. It was in tight. Could probably be reused. It's really a non-stressed item, but I'm going to go ahead and replace the right screw that's got the damaged head with one from my inventory. This is a 16 millimeter JIS screw, it's brand new. The one on the left is the original, one of the originals, and I cleaned it up and it's quite serviceable. So I'll use these two screws and attach this retainer. I am going to torque these screws to about 55 inch-pounds. Again, I'm going to go a little less than the normal 60 inch-pounds, which is 5 foot-pounds, because I'm going to be using anti-seize. Now going forward, I'm not going to keep repeating that statement about torquing to less than 60 inch-pounds. From now on, that will be my standard practice on fasteners when I torque them. I've talked about it a couple times now. So I'm just going to proceed on now with the assembly. One other note, the orientation of this retainer, bearing retainer, I did check with the photos that I took. I alluded to that, I think, in one of the previous videos, that I keep detailed photos of every stage of the breakdown. So all I had to do to validate how this was originally placed is go look at the original photos, and there's no question then. This is a JIS screwdriver I'm using to snug these down. Now I'll go ahead and torque these. Next thing we're going to install is this stopper assembly, or at least that's what Yamaha calls this arm. This is used to prevent the shift drum, pointed to by my middle finger here on my right hand, to prevent the shift drum from inadvertently spinning. There's a shoulder bolt here that goes through the arm, as you can see there. The shoulder bolt goes into this hole. This wheel indexes against the pins. There's pins in here. In fact, let me show you those pins real quick. You can see the pins all the way around. Those go all the way through the shift drum. Tighten that up real quick. I'll leave that loose for now. So what I'm going to do is simply fit this into position here, put a little anti-seize on this, on the threads here on the shoulder bolt. Obviously the spring gets hooked over that pin right there, and make sure everything's seated in place. We want to make sure that the shoulder of the bolt actually goes through the hole in the plate, or the arm. Everything's now tightened down, and you can see it acts as an indexer and locks the transmission in each position.